Hello everyone, welcome to my kitchen. My name is Michael, and if you've got some leftover mashed potatoes, I'm going to show you what to do with those today. Let's make potato rolls. These are so delicious, and you'll have a use for those mashed potatoes, those leftovers. Get them out, let's make these rolls. I'll show you how it's done. Let's get started making our potato rolls, and we'll start with our ingredients first. So we're going to go ahead and proof our yeast. So I've got 1 cup of milk here that I've got heated up to about 105 degrees Fahrenheit. You want your milk to be between 100 and 110. Anything higher than that could kill the yeast. And then we're going to put in 2 1/4 teaspoons of our yeast, and we're just going to put that in. And yeast loves sugar, so I've got 3 tablespoons of sugar here, and I'm just going to put just a little bit of that in there just to kind of get that activated a little bit faster. And we're going to set this aside and let this sit for about 4 to 5 minutes. And while we're doing that, we'll work on our other ingredients. Now that we've got our yeast and our milk mixed together, let's go ahead and mix our dry ingredients together. And I'm going to be measuring out 4 cups of bread flour. And remember, when we're measuring flour, you do not want to scoop and pack your flour down into your measuring cup, because you'll definitely get a different measurement than if you do it this way. I'm going to spoon in my cup, and then I'm going to take the back of a knife and I'm going to scrape it off the top so I'll get a level cup. And that'll be 1. So we want to do 3 more just like that. All right, I've got my 4 cups of flour measured into my bowl here, and I'm going to go ahead and put the remainder of my 3 tablespoons of my sugar in with my flour. And then I've got 2 teaspoons of salt, and we'll go ahead and add that in. And I'm just going to use a whisk here and just whisk all that together. Now that we've got our dry ingredients mixed together, let's go ahead and set up our stand mixer. And you can definitely knead this by hand if you'd like to. I'm just going to be using the stand mixer today, as it makes it goes a little bit easier for us. All right, I've got my stand mixer set up. Our yeast now, it's been sitting over here, and we've got a good bloom on that. So I've always done that with my yeast just to make sure that it is good. We don't want to make our rolls and find out that after everything we've put together and waited that it's not going to rise because your yeast is not active. So definitely I always do that. So let's go ahead and put our mixer down on low just so that we can incorporate our ingredients into it. And we're going to go ahead and add our milk and our yeast. I had leftover potatoes from yesterday, and I thought I wanted to do something with these, so I thought I would show you how to make the potato bread. So I've got a 1/2 cup of mashed potatoes, and we're just going to add those into our mixture. I've got 4 tablespoons of unsalted butter, and I did melt this a little bit, but we're going to go ahead and add this into our mixture now. And I've got 1 large egg that's at room temperature, and we'll add that in. All right, now that I've got everything incorporated into it, I'm going to turn the mixer up on medium so that I get my dough to come together, and I'll show you what that looks like. All right, I got my flour and my ingredients all combined, and now I'm going to knead this between 10 to 12 minutes, and we'll look at that when it's done. All right, let's take our dough out now. We're going to form that into a ball. I did actually let this sit here and knead for about 12 minutes. So let's remove this from our stand. All right, so I'm just going to kind of form this into a ball, and we're going to get ready for our rising. There we go. There we've got our dough. I've got some neutral oil here. I'm just going to take just a little bit of it. And I'm going to put that into a clean bowl, and I'm just going to wipe that around because I want my dough to sit in there. We don't want it to stick to the sides of it as it rises. So we're going to put just a light layer of oil around it, and we're just going to cover the top and the bottom. We don't want our dough to dry out as it's rising. All right, so we're just going to take some cling film. I'm just going to put that over the top of my bowl. You get another piece. Now that I've got the cling film on the bowl, let's put this someplace warm. I'm actually going to just put mine in the microwave. I'm not going to turn it on. It's a little bit warmer in there. I'm not going to leave it out here on the counter. We want this to double in size, and we're going to wait probably between an hour to 2 hours for it to double in size. So take a look at it in an hour and just kind of gauge it where it is. Double in size. I'll be back in just a few. I am back. It's been just a little over an hour, and I wanted to show you what my dough looked like here. We got a good rise on that, so it more than doubled in size. So now we're just going to take this and we're going to put it down on the counter here. And I'm going to kind of punch it down. I've got my dough punched out into a little circle here, and I'm going to take my bench press and I'm going to cut it in half. I want to get 12 rolls out of this. So let's cut it in half, and then I'll take that and cut that in half. And I'm going to keep cutting it in half until I get 12. All right, so now that I've got my dough cut into about 12 pieces, there's a couple of bigger pieces in the other ones. So I'm going to take some of those and kind of add it out so they kind of get the same shape to them. So what we're going to do with that is I'll start with a couple of these little ones here. I'm going to put these back together. And we just want to kind of roll that into a ball. And I'm just going to kind of form that back. All right, so I've got my dough put into like a ball shape here, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with that. So we're just going to kind of pinch the bottom together so that we get the piece sealed together. And we're going to take it and you're going to cup your hands and you're just going to kind of roll it around a little bit so we can get a nice shape to it. And then if you see it gets that hole on the bottom again, you can just come back and pinch it closed. And we've got our nice roll. So I've got a baking sheet here that I've got some parchment paper on, and we just want to kind of push those down a little bit. And we're going to put that on our parchment paper sheet here. And I'm going to continue to work on those until I get my 12 pieces, and I'll be back in just a minute. All right, I've got all 12 of my dinner rolls ready to go. And like I said, I've got them on this parchment lined pan here. And I'm going to put a damp towel over the top of them, or you can use cling film. If you use cling film, just be careful. You might want to put a little bit of oil on the top of them because the cling film might stick to it. But I've got just a damp towel here. It's not wet. And I'm going to put this back someplace where it's warm, and we're going to let these come to a second rise again, and we'll see you back in about an hour, hour and a half. We want these to double in size. So put these somewhere where they're going to be warm. I am back. It's been about an hour and a half now, and my rolls have doubled in size. I wanted to show you what these look like before I put them in the oven. So we've got a nice rise on our bread here, and I've got my oven preheating to 375, and we're going to put those in for about 15 to 18 minutes. I'm going to turn these about 7 minutes into it completely around. That way if one side of my oven's cooking faster than the other, I want to get a nice cook on my rolls here. So 375, 15 to 18 minutes, and I'll see you back and we'll show you what these look like. I am back, and I want you to see how pretty these rolls are. They got a nice brown color to them, and they cooked for about 15 minutes in my oven, so keep a watch on them. I did turn them at 7 minutes. I turned the pan around just in case one side of my oven was cooking faster than the other. And now I've got 3 tablespoons of butter. This is completely optional if you don't want to do this. And I've got 1 tablespoon of honey. I'm going to put a little bit of a butter honey glaze on the top of them, and just kind of add just a little bit more extra to my rolls. So let's mix that together. I did put my butter in the microwave for about 30 seconds to melt it. So we've got that mixed together really nicely now, and you can see what that looks like. Got a nice consistency to it. And I'm just going to take a brush here, and I'm going to brush some of that honey and butter on the top of my rolls here. All right, we've got our honey and butter glaze on our rolls now. We're going to let this cool down just a minute, and we're going to come back and give these a test. And while we're waiting, I'm going to go ahead and transfer these to a plate. I've got my rolls transferred to a plate now. Let's give these a test and see what these look like. Look how incredible these are. They're so pretty. And when you break them open, just look how tender they are on the inside. So I've got just a little bit more butter here. We're going to put on one of these, and we'll give this a test. That is absolutely delicious. It is so tender. And look at that inside of those, what those look like. Really fluffy and tasty. And if you've got leftover mashed potatoes, this is something you can do with them. So I thought I would share this recipe with you today. I hope this has inspired you to try potato rolls. And like I said, if you've got some leftover mashed potatoes, this is a good way to use them. And I hope you like this video. And if you have, maybe you might want to try one of these other 2 videos over here. You might find something else you like. All right, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye-bye now. Delicious.